Number 1. About a month ago, I found myself searching through YouTube for some reviews and demonstrations of a dashboard camera I was thinking of getting. Well, what I found was quite helpful. Many of the results were a bit repetitive and didn't introduce a ton of new information, aside from individual opinions of what worked well and what didn't. One recently uploaded video, however, did stand out a bit from the rest that was simply called 2-Dash-Cam. A description hadn't been filled out and the uploader's account was a random assortment of numbers, but I decided I had nothing to lose by giving it a look. The general scene was of a young child sitting behind a rectangular table with nothing behind him except a door. After sitting silently for almost a minute, the child gave a shy greeting and explained several details about what may have been a dash cam. I can't really be sure due to how unusually vague the child was being, including descriptions like, "It has a good screen," "The body is strong," "It'll last a long time." In fact, at no point in the video was a dashcam shown or even named. Before the recording came to an end, the child sat in silence once more for another minute or so. My first instinct was to believe this was some kind of test video on a newly created account, which made me curious about the account itself. Maybe it would end up being wildly popular somehow and I'd be one of the first people to see it. Clicking on the profile itself revealed almost nothing had been filled out or added except for 2 videos, along with the one I had just watched. There was a video added only minutes before it called 1-Dash-Cam. The preview photo was nearly identical, the same child sitting in the same place, so I wondered if there were multiple attempts at the same thing. Just as before, I allowed my curiosity to get the best of me and I opened the second video. I could quickly tell that this really wasn't a video at all, and instead was one frozen frame from the other clip. A soft ringing noise grew louder during the first few seconds, followed by a robotic voice reading several facts about, apparently, the child. Name, Rodney Wilson, age 9, mother location, jail, father location, deceased, cause of death, beaten, burned. Several moments of silence later, the video ended. The horrible feeling that grew in my heart in response to what I had just heard was just indescribable. I told myself it was some cruel joke, but even if it was, finding humor in something so disturbing was completely uncalled for. There must have been a hint somewhere of what the purpose of the videos were, and while a bit unclear, one trait about the user's account caught my attention that I had missed before. A number of people were already subscribed, not many people, but more than seemed reasonable for an account made only hours earlier with random numbers as the name. I didn't question the subscribers too much since they all looked pretty normal at a glance, though seeing them gave me an idea. The best way to find out what these videos were was to simply wait for more of them, so I subscribed myself and left it at that for the time being. A good portion of the day passed before I logged back into YouTube to check on the account from earlier, though to my surprise it had been deleted. No more subscription, no more videos, that was it, or so I thought. The next morning I tried to shift my focus back to finding the dashcam information I'd originally been researching and was met with a message on my YouTube account. It was as follows: "Hello, you have been subscribed to Eyes Below the Sun study. Link 1, link 2. Please remember no one has been harmed." Due to the sender of the message being from another account of mixed numbers, I knew this must have come from the person behind the other profile or at least someone connected to that person. This was the first time I'd considered that some kind of study was being conducted, but I had to wonder who the subjects were, the people in the videos or the viewers. Whatever the case, I had told myself I'd wait for more videos and here they were, so I checked them both out. Each one mimicked the general layout of the videos before. One was of another child sitting in the same empty room, vaguely reviewing some kind of electronic. The title was 2 Radio. The other was once again a screenshot of the first with a robotic voice reading information about the child. Name, Richard Brown, age 12, mother location, deceased, father location, unknown, cause of death, strangulation. Some hours later, the account was once again deleted. For several days, there seemed to be a clear formula at play. I'd be sent a message from a new account with 2 videos. One link would be of a child reviewing something, and the other would be a screenshot of the review video and information about the reviewer. Then, at the end of the day, the account would be taken down. While this was unusual, I was still waiting for a clear reason to think something was horribly wrong, besides the freeze frame videos reading details that I slowly suspected were made up. After almost a week, a message I reviewed renewed my feelings of concern. It was as follows. Hello, you have been subscribed to Eyes Below the Sun study. Link 1, Link 2. Please remember, Jessica refused to participate in the study. I slit her eyes. Oh God, no one was harmed. The first link, called One Pendant, describes some facts about the child as the previous videos did, but the robotic voice had been replaced with the recording of a woman. The child's name is Jessica. She's 7 years old and both of her parents are at unknown locations. Due to her refusal to follow procedures, appropriate actions will be taken. Odd. I clicked the next link and saw the usual setup of a child, presumably Jessica, sitting at a table. She began describing the pendant in a vague manner, which was no surprise. However, in the middle of her description, she suddenly stopped and began to weep. A woman standing out of view calmly asked the girl to keep her eyes on the camera, but she continued to cry for a while before asking, "What did you do to my mom?" While the second person in the room wasn't visible, I could guess she began moving around since the video started shaking. Suddenly, the camera was pushed to the side, exposing a door to the bathroom. The woman then revealed herself by entering the now visible second room, taking a moment to shuffle through a cabinet before returning with a pair of scissors. I wasn't able to get a good look at the person, but a large wound on her face was impossible to miss. It started at the corner of her mouth and carved halfway to her ear. The video then ended. This must have set off some kind of chain reaction, because the next 2 or 3 days had children who were all acting strange. They tried to describe whatever product they were assigned to while fighting back tears and glancing at something in the corner of the room out of view. Then I received another out of format message. Link 1. Do not be alarmed. There was only one link that day to something called Zero Eyes. But what could it be? I opened the video and was met with an empty room. Apparently the host hadn't been seated yet. Intense commotion could be heard outside, in the form of footsteps stomping down the hallway towards the door and muffled screaming, apparently from a kid. When the door opened, a man burst through holding a child in his arms. Tape had been put over the boy's mouth and his arms were tied behind his back. After kicking the door shut with his foot, the man practically threw the child onto the table with so much force that the camera fell over. The scene had changed from the usual table to the corner of the room where the previous children had been uncomfortably glancing at. Laying on the floor naked was the girl from the pendant video, motionless, with wounds covering her entire body. Dried blood streamed down from her eyelids that had been savagely cut or ripped off. While she had clearly been there for several days, her eyes were very slightly vibrated. The child was dying, but still alive. Suddenly, text on a black screen popped up with the words, "Do not be alarmed," for several moments before the video ended. This was the last straw. I wrote down the numbers of the account and the video name before rushing out of my house to the local police station. I can only imagine how frantic I looked when I got there. Even trying to speak was challenging, and it didn't help that the officers impatiently demanded I calm down. Eventually, however, I managed to tell them what I had seen, and they requested I sit tight while they check out the videos themselves right there. Maybe 15 minutes passed before the officers returned to me. Unfortunately, I didn't get there fast enough. The account and video had already been deleted. I didn't lose hope, however, because I knew I'd get another video the next day, so I promised to return when the proof of this nightmare arrived. That night I didn't sleep well, since the mental image of this mutilated girl was stuck in my brain. I couldn't check my messages on YouTube fast enough when I awoke, and what I found was the following. Hello, you have been unsubscribed to Eyes Below the Sun study. Link 1. Please remember no one was harmed. Upon clicking the link, I gasped at the title of the video. It was a 0 immediately followed by my YouTube username. With a terrible sinking feeling in my stomach, I sat back and watched the scene play. What followed was the regular room with no one visible once again. However, someone standing behind the camera slowly walked into view and positioned herself exactly where the children had sat. I recognized this woman as the one from the One Pendant video, the woman with the facial wound. She glared into the camera for a moment before saying, "I'm sorry you didn't understand what I set out to do, but it's not my responsibility to stop your imagination from forcing conclusions. I have made a point of telling all families that no one was hurt, and that is the truth. Bodily pain is an illusion. I'm not responsible for your understanding or lack of understanding of this basic concept. The woman then walked back to the camera and shut it off, ending the video. This was the last I heard of anything related to these series of events. I did make an attempt to return to the police that day with the video directed at me, but it had been deleted before I got to the station. One of the officers I spoke to mentioned the possibility of bringing up the web pages involved in one of those police internet history searches for deleted or changed websites. I don't know the specific name unfortunately, and stated he'd look into it. 2 weeks have passed since that conversation. I have yet to hear back from them. The least I can do is share the story here, share it somewhere, so someone else knows what I've experienced. I've gone back to YouTube and searched countless products to try to find another video that may have been related and have come up completely empty. I'm going to keep looking. I feel like I have an obligation to, but for now, all I can say is thank you for reading. Update, I just got a really frightening message on Reddit and think I might be in danger. Here's the message. The addresses there are right. I'm going back to the police. This is really freaking me out. Number 2. I'm an ASMR artist. I started making videos a few months ago and I've become YouTube famous pretty quickly. I get a lot of posts on my videos, mostly nice people who just need help relaxing or going to sleep. I get a lot of weird messages too, perverted stuff, but mostly all stuff I ignore or is in good humor but just bad taste. I try not to notice these or let them bother me. Most of them are jokes anyway. Recently though, I got a weird post on a video that I wasn't sure was a joke. I've changed some of the names, and I've taken my channel down as a result of what I'm sharing below. What a liar. It was still up when I got to her computer. I deleted it. The message. Raoul Gen, 1 week ago. Dear Angelic Whispers, do you not know what your videos do to me? I want to touch your skin. I want to be in your eyes. I want you to be in mine. Angelic Whispers, 1 week ago. Ha ha ha, thanks. A little dramatic, but I'm glad you liked the video. Over the next few days, he posted comments in all of my videos. Raoul Gen, 6 days ago. Hi Aw, that's your new name for me now. You do make me say aw a lot when I watch your videos. Great job, you're really pretty. Raoul Gen, 6 days ago. I know you probably have a boyfriend and are used to these kinds of comments, but you are stunning. Raoul Gen, 6 days ago. You're sweet inside and out. Raoul Gen, 4 days ago. Your advice here is amazing. I had the same thing happen to me before. I got over it. Like you said, you just have to be yourself, and you Angelic Whispers are truly beautiful. Raoul Gen, 4 days ago. I feel sleepy the second I hear your voice. ZZ. Good night. And then this. Raoul Gen, 4 days ago. This one was really good. I really like your hair. Hey, by the way, I swear I saw you at the mall last week, but I wasn't sure. I'm pretty shy in person, so I didn't go up to you. Were you wearing a big red hat? Angelic Whispers, 4 days ago. Nope, that wasn't me. It was me. The following sequence took place over 3 days. I was away and couldn't check my YouTube account, no internet, and came back to these comments posted in the video. Raoul Gen, 3 days ago. Dear Angelic Whispers, I'm really distraught right now. I'm watching an old video of yours, staring at your beautiful lips, which spoke to me in an audible Greek, and in your background on your vanity was the red hat I saw you wearing last week at the mall. I saw you at the bus stop too, by the way. You took the 93. I know it for a fact. It was you, and I'm really hurt by you lying to me. I'm not a weirdo or some messed up person. I'm actually a not bad looking guy, just a little shy maybe, but that's because I spend a lot of time reading and I don't think anyone has much in common with me, except for you. You'd be surprised, if we could ever meet in person, by how much we share in common. I'd love to meet you sometime, maybe at the mall. I'll be there Saturday. I'll wear a blue hat so you can recognize me. I know how you look, so if I see you, I'll actually come up and say hi to you this time. Nothing crazy. Although I'm coming off a bit nuts now, nothing committal. I'd just love to meet you in person. Raoul Gen, 3 days ago. LOL, it's definitely you. I saw you on Tinder. I swiped right. Hope you swipe me back. Raoul Gen, 2 days ago. You never came. Haha, it's okay. You're probably busy with school and stuff. Me too. Maybe we'll bump into each other on campus. I think we go to the same school too. Nothing else happened for a month. I had gotten a little YouTube fame from the videos I'd been making, and had gotten a couple messages from the mother of ASMR artist Soft Dawn. I asked her what I should do about the posts I had gotten. She told me one of the tricks other girls were using was to wear a wedding ring. I went out and got a ring I would wear when I film my videos. I posted a new video tonight. Right away I got some views and a comment. Raul Gen, 7 hours ago. Oh, now I see you're wearing a wedding ring this video. Did you do that because of me? Are you really married? Do you not realize what you're doing when you make these things? They're not just videos to me. Angelic Whispers, 7 hours ago. Hi Raul, I'm not being mean. I just never wore my ring before today. I hope this doesn't change how you feel about my videos. Raul Gen, 7 hours ago. The thing is, I know who you really are in real life. I don't understand you. You show your face in a video, talk about yourself, record these things in your bedroom. I can see out onto the street. I know exactly where you live. View all 15 replies. Jake Jennings, 7 hours ago. That's messed up. I hope you're just kidding, and even then, not very funny. Bailey Gaga, 7 hours ago. Not funny. Raul Gen, 4 hours ago. At Angelic Whispers, no one believes me. I can prove it. Give me 5 minutes, and this time I'm not going to let you get away. View all 4 replies. Jake Jennings, 4 hours ago. Maybe you should call the cops or call a friend if you're home alone. At Angelic Whispers. Raul Gen, 4 hours ago. She lives alone. I'm already here. You left the kitchen window open. At Angelic Whispers. At Jake Jennings. Jake Jennings, 4 hours ago. Is everything okay? This has to be some sick joke. I've reported his comments. At Angelic Whispers. It's been 4 hours. I'm frozen in my chair. I've heard something bang in the kitchen about an hour ago, but things fall sometimes. It's 3 a.m. My bedroom door is locked. I'm afraid to make a sound. It feels like the second I break this silence. Am I being crazy? I've been officially creeped out from making these ASMR videos, but I really love doing it, and this is probably just a bad joke. I might just go to bed soon, with all the lights on, of course. It's times like this I wish I had a dog or a roommate. I'll just keep browsing Reddit until I fall asleep. He said the window in the kitchen was open, but it never is. Wait, what's this? Raul Gen, 1 minute ago. At Angelic Whispers. What did you make me do? When the man came into the kitchen, I thought it was your husband, your boyfriend, or whoever. I strangled him, and I waited for you. I waited a long time. After a while, I went into the bedroom and saw someone asleep in bed. She was fast asleep. I knew it wasn't you right away. I was in the wrong house. I had to kill her too before I left. Both of them are dead because you wouldn't meet me. And then you lied. Why did you lie? You know you seem so genuine in your videos, but you're not. You're a liar, an actor. You think you're helping people, but you're not. I really thought we had a connection, but I was wrong. I'll still find you. Maybe I got the house wrong, but I know for sure what street you live on. And I'm going to try a couple more houses before dawn. I'm writing this on my phone. There's a house with a light on I see. That might be yours. I know you said you have trouble sleeping. Well, so do I. Raul Gen, now. At Angelic Whispers. It's definitely your house this time. I saw the light go off. Edit. Looky looky, a Reddit account too. Edit number 2. Why do people lie? Edit number 3. I am not a liar. Edit. Just waiting here until the sun goes down. I have to clean up this mess. This was fun at first, but now it isn't. Now that I realize what I have done, please don't hate me. Edit. I can't do this. There is a mess everywhere. I tried to dispose of. I can't do this. I know what I've done is wrong. I can't do this. Please, don't hate me. This world is full of liars, and I should have been stronger. I'm sorry. When the police come, they will find 2 bodies in this house, because I can't live with this. I will hurt more people, I think, if I try. And 2 more down the road in the gray brick house 5 houses down. I have hers. Plied. I'm sorry. So sorry. But where is she now? She is gone. And where am I going? I'm so sorry. I know many of you didn't believe this, and that may have been a good thing, but to my family and hers, I will never be forgiven for what I've done. Edit. I just woke up from trying to hang myself. It didn't work, I guess, because I woke up on the floor. The rope had snapped. I won't try again. When I kicked the chair from my feet and started to strangle, I felt immediate regret, not for what I'd done, but that I tried to kill myself. I'm not sure I feel any remorse now at all, since it was decided I should live and not die for what I've done. I was not in the wrong, even though it's sad 2 innocent people died. It was not my fault. Thank you for being with me during this. I'm leaving the house now. Goodbye. It might be a while before I watch any ASMR videos, but there are some good channels out there, and pretty girls running them, so it will be hard. I don't know if they are all liars, but I hope they are not. Number 3. Let me begin by disclaiming that I'm not schizophrenic. I don't have any psychological issues of the sort. If you aren't going to believe me, then don't listen to my story. For the past 6 months, I've really liked using guided spoken meditations to fall asleep. I always end up returning back to the same channel on YouTube. It works wonders for me. I fall asleep with my mind at peace and my worries lifted. Then last night I decided to try a different video I had never seen before. The thumbnail caught my attention immediately. It was a picture of what seemed like to be stars, but the stars came together to form a smiling face with large circular hollow eyes made of the stars. The video was titled Guided Meditation, Immersive Astrological Journey, Nightman. So I clicked on the video, got nice and comfortable and closed my eyes. It started like any other meditation I had heard before. If you've never done this before, basically a person doing a voiceover tells you to relax, breathe deeply and clear your mind. Once that process is done, the visual or imaginative part of the meditation begins. Last night I was pretty exhausted, so I ended up nodding off before the visual portion even began. The last thing I remember before falling asleep was breathing in to the count of 4, holding, then exhaling to the count of 5. Sometime later I woke up in sleep paralysis. The headphones were still in my ears, and the meditation was still going, except there was no voiceover. There was no soothing descriptions for visualization. There was a loud, and I mean loud, static sound, like the kind you hear on the radio. The most accurate thing I could find is this. Then there was this incessant whispering. It was so low and gravelly, it almost sounded like a growl. It said over and over, "He watches from above. He watches from above." I laid there paralyzed with an indescribable sense of dread washing over me. I wanted to move. I wanted my body to wake up, and I wanted the goddamn video to stop, but it just kept going. The more the voice repeated, "He watches from above," the more terrified I became. I had this feeling like I knew something was watching me. This went on for what seemed like hours, but it could have been only 20 minutes because the video was only 31 minutes long to begin with. When I finally was able to break out of the paralysis, I tilted my head up and saw it, a big black shape stretching out over my bed. Its neck was elongated to the point where its face hovered a foot over my own. Oh man, its face. Its eyes were abnormally large and round and white with these massive pupils, like a cat gets when it's about to pounce on something. Its nose was like a goat's or something, just these 2 black deep slits. I can't think about its mouth without feeling sick. I could smell its breath. It smelled like rotting carcasses and mold. The mouth was wide and it seemed to be smiling. It had rows and rows of tiny sharp teeth. If lamprey eels could smile, it would look exactly like what I saw. For reference, here's a lamprey eel's mouth. I stared at it, paralyzed for fear for 5 hours until the sun came up. Once the sun had started to come through my windows at around 6 a.m., it started crawling backwards off my ceiling and seemed to ooze out into the closet floor and disappear. I don't know what to do. I don't know what I've done to myself. All I know is that I would rather collapse from sleep deprivation than ever willingly go to sleep again. Number 4. This evening I tried to log into my account, which I used to upload gaming videos to, and I couldn't. After an age of attempting password resets, my email was taken too. I had a history of my things getting hacked. This evening, I was in a call with my friend. He was looking at my channel and saw that some of my videos had been taken off. After further inspection, a video had also been uploaded simply titled 1. He obviously assumed I was trying to pull an elaborate prank on him. I wasn't. Here's the video. All that appears is some brief text with a strange backtrack, then more code. We have no idea what it says, then a second video titled, "Yes, you guessed it, 2, but this time the code was visual. The Morse code in this one, which we translated as it was just a visual, said hello. I thought I'd share it with you. We'll update soon with any new details. Thank you for listening. If you can help with translations, please don't hesitate to ask. Me and my friend will keep checking the channel. Edit, the third is out. We tried translating it, but no luck. Seems to say, M. Freet, maybe a name. We'll keep you posted." Edit 2, fourth out. The text, "Are you ready?" and an ominous picture to a very weird sound, like an old router processing. Edit 3. The new one is out. It's creepy as shit. The description is, "Say hi" in Morse, and the main text in the video translates to, "You killed him. I'm really creeped out." Edit 4. New one. This is getting ridiculous. Black Coach will put the full translations in the comments, but in the end of the video there is a somewhat disturbing picture of a man with a bag over his head. Edit 5. Just watch for yourself. I don't know what's going on anymore. Edit 6. Edit 7. It keeps getting worse, I'm sorry. Edit 8. I'm going to sleep. He just uploaded a new video. I can't cope with watching it. Please, I need to sleep. Edit 9. Couldn't sleep. New video. He's actively commenting. Edit 10. I can hear now. Edit 11. Alex, my friend who was with me in the call, Benjamin, me. He's addressing everyone in the call. I'm not scared anymore. I feel like the next few hours are inevitable. Edit 12. The house is getting colder. The heating is supposed to be on and it's summer. It's calming now. Edit 13. I have another person in the call from here. It's calming me somewhat. Nothing new is happening video-wise. Number 5. Hi, I'm in my car in the parking lot of a Starbucks right now, using their Wi-Fi, and I'm super scared. This YouTube video, it's not scary without context, but hear me out and let me know how concerned I should be and what is the best course of action. I am in a small town in a rural area, about 100 miles from the big city where I live. I came up here to crash at my parents' country house while I deal with some stuff. Dealing with stuff involved with me getting hammered one night, or every night, but one night in particular, and wandering out into the woods to piss. It was way too dark for such a journey, but I was drunk and it seemed like a good idea. I grabbed a flashlight and walked deep into the woods I haven't been in since I was a kid. I stumbled through the woods making all kinds of noise, snapping branches, etc. I get deep enough to piss. I remember my logic was something about bringing the piss back to nature, and I whip it out. Well, it's tough to hold a dick and a flashlight at the same time, so of course I drop the goddamn flashlight and piss all over myself. When the flashlight hits the ground and the battery pops out, I'm left in utter darkness. I've been stumbling around looking for the battery for a bit, no luck. It bounced away. When I hear I'm blinded by a bright light. The light only goes on for a second, then goes off. Obviously, I was terrified, so I just ran in the general direction of my house and got lucky, slammed right into the garage. I hadn't even left the porch lights on, like an idiot. I get back in the house and lock myself in a bedroom. I drink. I slowly convince myself that the light was nothing to worry about. I decided on a trick of the eyes, and then I forget about it and pass out. In the morning, hungover, I remember the light and blamed it on the drinking, some kind of drunk phenomena. I made myself breakfast and walked around the house cleaning up my beer cans. Eventually, I sat down to my computer and found this. This video was open in a tab next to the dumb Reddit thread I've been reading. There was no option to press back. It was the first page that had been visited in that tab. That's me. Those are the clothes I was wearing when I went out to take the piss. I don't know what the 3 lights are behind me, and I don't know who took the video. Right now I'm on my laptop in my car in a Starbucks parking lot. I checked the back of my car, don't worry, I'm not that stupid. Do I have the right to be concerned here? I don't really have any proof of anything. The cops would say I just made that video myself. Can I somehow figure out where the video was uploaded from? And my laptop webcam just turned on. Yesterday, I posted about my suspicions that I might have a stalker or something. I've seen a new video and I'm still processing it. I thought about calling the police, but decided that that one video being open on my computer is not enough evidence to do anything about it. I searched the house, locked up, and took the train home, back to my real apartment in the outer borough of NYC, which is where I am now. I've been obsessively watching the video since I got home, obviously. I saw a lot of what you guys figured out by looking at it frame by frame, and it freaked me out too much, so I couldn't read all of it. But as I was watching the video for the 1000th time, an annotation popped up. I didn't refresh or anything, it just popped up. It's still there now. It says, "Wish you were here. Look." Then it links to this. That's a video of, and again, I'm not 100% sure, the view through the window of the train that goes from the little town my country house is to Grand Central Station, the same train I took. I don't know what to do. Was so excited to see that snmrrw, as you know him, Dave to me, shared my videos with you guys. I'm so glad you like them. I have so many hits. The silly goose left his computer open again, so I'm using his account. I'm sure he'll enjoy these internet posts from my latest video, haha. Isn't that cute? Just me and Davey watching TV like we used to when we were kids. I ran out of battery partway through, but me and Davey watched TV for a long time. I hope we can watch TV forever. Thanks to all who watched. Maybe we can be friends too. Love, Curtis. Before we get to the next story, this video is a collection of stories from 3 videos on my personal channel, Chills. The link is at the very top of the description if you'd like to subscribe, because I upload a new scary story video there each week. If you've ever been curious as to what I look like in real life, then follow me on Instagram at DylanIsChillinYT with underscores instead of spaces. I also have a Twitter at YT_chills where I post video updates. I'd really appreciate a follow, and feel free to send me a DM if you have any questions or suggestions. Let's get back to the stories. Chills. Number 1. Okay, so here are the events that have transpired in the past 2 hours or so, and a little backstory as to why this is freaking me out so much. My partner and I have recently moved back into my childhood home with my parents while our own house is being built to save some cash and not have to move instantly from our rental when it's complete. My parents own 3 Australian native birds, and earlier tonight I was updating my Snapchat story to show my friends, as many of them always ask what the birds' names are, and what they look like. I took 3 Snapchat videos one after the other and just put them on my story without worrying about retakes or what I look like, so please forgive me for the uploads. Anyways, within about 15 minutes of uploading, I received an SMS message from one of my good but not great friends that said, "Ah, you bearded beast, those birds are mad. By the way, what was that in the window behind you in the last one?" I had no idea what he was going on about, so I went and watched my own Snapchat story a couple of times. On the 3rd or 4th watch, I saw what he was talking about and my stomach sank and I almost started to have a panic attack, and I'm still pretty shaken up. I immediately saved my story videos and put them on my computer to see them larger. In the last Snapchat video I sent, it looks kind of like someone is at the door, looking in with their hands cupped against the door. It is hard to tell because Snapchat videos are very poor quality, and the door is only in frame for about 1 second. Whatever it is in the 3rd Snapchat video, however, is definitely not in the first video when the door is in full view. I was the only person home at the time, and that particular door leads to the backyard, which is only accessible via a single locked gate. Here are the 3 videos I saved from my story. Video 1.
Right, so the first one of my parents' little birds is this little guy. It is little Leo. He's a cockatiel.
Video 2.
The second little bird of my parents is a rainbow lorikeet. His name is Oliver. And there he is.
Video 3.
And here I am with my good little mate, Puffin.
To add some backstory as to why this has been freaking me out so much, to do that I have to quickly talk about my childhood, teenage years up until I moved out with my parents at age 18. From about age 8 until age 10 I had episodes of sleep paralysis, 1 or 2 times a month, where it felt like a weight was sitting on my chest and I could not breathe for about 40 seconds at a time. This led to insomnia and anxiety about bedtime, as I dreaded feeling helpless. I ended up seeing a child psychologist, and whether that was or not the reason, the episodes largely went away, only once or twice a year until age 13. At age 12 or 13, for seemingly no reason at all, I started to get chronic episodes almost every night that lasted minutes to tens of minutes at a time. During these episodes I could breathe, but could not move. The worst thing about these episodes, however, is that I felt like something was in the room with me and meant me harm, common for people who experience sleep paralysis. At roughly age 14, things really took a turn, and I started to hear and see things during maybe 1 in 10 of my episodes. Also pretty common for people who experience sleep paralysis. The things I heard were never too crazy and over the top, and were usually just thuds or creaks. However, when it came to seeing things, there was always one recurring thing: a faceless person looking into my bedroom window with their hands cupped to the glass. For the course of a 1 to 10 minute episode, this person would just stand there and look at me. Whenever the episode ended, the person would just be gone. Over the course of 4 years, this occurred quite regularly, but it always really made me feel totally helpless and terrified. I never got used to it. When I moved out at age 18, I never had another episode where I saw anything. I'm 26 years old now, and I very occasionally, once a year, have small, less than 30-second episodes, but only those in which I feel heavy-chested. To cut a very long story short, whatever is there in my Snapchat video looks almost 100% like what I used to see as a teenager during my sleep paralysis episodes, and I have been a nervous wreck all night over it. To me, it kind of looks like a face to the glass. And 2 hands on either side. It has scared the Christ out of me. What do you guys think? I'll try and answer as many questions as I can and respond to everyone that I can. Thanks a lot, guys. Number 2. Normally I'm not much of an app user. In fact, I've had what my friends called a dumb phone up until about a year ago. Until I got my new phone, I honestly never felt like I was missing out. As cool as my friends made Twitter, Instagram, and whatever an Angry Bird was sound, I always knew those things would take me away from the thing I really had to put my focus on, my studies and my sanity. So when I got my first iPhone last year, it was a pretty big deal to my friends. Once I had it, I quickly realized how cool the interface was and how truly useful it could be. For 2 weeks I went app crazy, though that eventually lost its pizzazz until David and I started dating. By then I had gotten used to the smartphone world and he, a tech nerd, was all about it. After a few months he convinced me I needed to download Snapchat for funny conversations via Pics Babe. You can guess where it ended up. I didn't mind, however, since David and I had been going strong for a while and I trusted him to never use any pictures against me. And over time we began to use the app mostly for enjoyment and humor, for the most part. The first time it happened, I was walking out of the mall from work. I was on my phone, which I will admit I'm now a little bit addicted to. Angry Birds is addicting. And a Snapchat from David came in. It was blurry, but I could make out some of the ground and maybe a part of a car. Assuming it was a mistake and nothing more, I thought little of it for the rest of the night until dinner. Nice butt snap today, babe, I said with a wink. He looked up from his mac and cheese. What are you talking about? You butt snapped me a pic of the ground or something earlier when I was leaving for work at the mall. I couldn't tell what it was, but it looked like a mistake. David looked a bit confused and went back to eating. When I asked him what was up, all he said was, must have been a software issue, and went back to his food. As a serious techie, he takes any accidents he has with his devices super personal. I let it go and we go back to our normal routine. For a few days, all snaps were of the usual fodder: good looking food, ridiculous selfie faces, and a few NSFW messages thrown in for old time's sake. A few days later, as I was walking out of work, my phone buzzed. I was crossing the parking lot when I clicked the screen on and saw the notification from David. The snap lasted only 3 seconds and was blurry, but looked like a very pixelated and zoomed in picture of a person, maybe with blonde hair. I thought it was strange, so I took a selfie and snapped him back. What was that? I received a reply almost immediately of David's face, only it was kind of distorted and weird. In fact, I could barely tell it was him because of the lighting. I figured it was some kind of weird filter or the fact he seemed to have a bright light on behind him, but his face was completely shadowed in a silhouette. Almost immediately I received another from him, this time clearly of his face with a confused expression. Taken at a kind of angle, a picture is taken without letting your coworkers know you're taking a selfie. Then another came in. This one was a bit more zoomed out. It was of a petite blonde girl walking in a parking lot. It took me about 10 seconds to realize that girl in the picture was me. I had no idea how David did it, but I was honestly impressed. Startled at first, but impressed. I snapped back a kissy face with the heart emoji. David snapped back from work with a seemingly confused look on his face. I looked around the parking lot, but it was basically empty. He was nowhere in sight. How are you doing that? I sent back, giving my most ridiculous selfie face imaginable. Doing what? He sent back on yet another low-key work selfie. I got in the car thinking little of it and went home to make some lunch. Now we live in a very close outskirts of a big city, so our apartment is very packed into a surrounding neighborhood. We drew the short straw when we moved in and didn't get a parking space, so we have to park on the street. Even though it was midday on a Tuesday, there were no spots near my house. I had to park a few blocks away and walk. As I walked, naturally I played with my phone. Even though it was broad daylight and I lived in a nice neighborhood, eyes on your phone or ground are an easy way to keep from making eye contact with any creepy guys potentially hanging around the street. I texted a few of my friends about weekend plans when another Snapchat came in from David. This time it was of me getting out of my car. I stopped and looked around, figuring he must be hiding somewhere. He's a total nerd like that. After a few moments, the breeze got too cold and I figured he'd meet me inside eventually. You'll freeze out here, nerd, I said lovingly, and walked towards my house. I continued walking down the street and another notification popped up. 2 new snaps. I opened the first snap and it was of my kitchen table with a large pot, jarred sauce, and a box of rigatoni. Pasta for dinner, it said. I replied with a smile and a sure and kept walking. The second snap played. It was of his weird silhouette face again. The caption said, "I am not cold." A new Snapchat notification popped up, this one of me walking down the street just moments before. The caption was simple, "I like you." I replied thinking it was David, with a snap of my face and quite generously the low-cut shirt beneath it with a "I like you too." He sent another back of him in my kitchen with the cat, taunting him with a rigatoni. A moment later, a second snap came in of a black screen with a giant emoji with a huge smile on it. I had to admit, however he was sending these snaps was really quite impressive. I'd have to ask him tonight how he did it. When I got into the house, I saw him cooking and didn't have time to ask him how he played his pranks. The water was over boiling, the sauce was way too hot, and he was looking as lost as ever in front of the stove. He's a shitty cook, but he tries, so I love him for it. I jumped in. I got swept up in making dinner and forgot to ask again about his pranks until he stopped for a moment to run to the bathroom. I heard the door click and my phone chime. A snap of me cooking popped onto the screen. "You are so pretty," it said. I just smiled and put my phone down. When he got out of the bathroom, dinner was ready, and I told him to grab a plate. We served ourselves and began to talk about our days. "So how did you keep doing those snaps?" I said. "And how did you keep getting those pictures of me leaving work? What are you talking about?" I explained again the pictures he sent, and he looked confused, denying the whole thing. He's always had that nerdy, awkward sense of humor, and it wouldn't be the first time I ruined a joke or surprise too early, so I just smiled and changed the conversation. He even played up the awkward, reserved part the entire time too, as if my questioning had truly confused him. This was the most intricate prank he played to date. Throughout the night I got a few more from his account when I wasn't paying attention. He must have sneakily gotten the pictures when he crossed the room on occasion. For the most part, he was busy at his computer working on a program he and his friends were building, and I was sitting on the couch reading. I thought little of it, and quietly enjoyed the fact that, for the first time in a few months, he was being pretty forward and flirty. I liked being noticed. That was until we went to bed. I figured since he had been sending me all those weird messages to get my attention, he wanted all of my attention. But when the lights were out, he kissed me goodnight, rolled over, and started snoring. Almost immediately my phone buzzed. A Snapchat popped up of me from earlier, walking from the car. A second was of me in my car and the caption, "I'm always watching." The third was of me sitting in my living room reading, only I realized the angle was off. It was taken up high, as if from the top corner of the room. The only caption was a heart emoji. The fourth was of me in my car. During a quick moment I picked my nose. "Always," it said. I needed to know how he did this. It was going beyond cute and funny and now a little creepy. Most importantly, how did he get that shot of me in the car earlier? I was alone. Did he have a hidden camera installed on my dash? This was going a bit too far for a cute prank. I went to check his phone to see if he had some weird app installed, but it was powered off. I got up to check his computer to see if he had something running on that, but that too was powered off. A little annoyed, I woke him up and started yelling at him. He, as most sleeping people would do, woke up confused and annoyed and answered with a sleepy, "Yes dear, we'll take care of it tomorrow," and just turned over and went back to bed. Immediately regaining his snoring tempo, a new snap came in and I shoved the phone in his face, but he didn't want to wake. This one was of me reading a few hours earlier, only it was ultra close up. There is no way a hidden camera could have taken it. The space in front of my couch was completely wide open, and this was taken at eye level, maybe 2 feet from my face. "I like you," it said. A chill went down my spine. Almost too terrified to answer, I turned the camera on my phone. I put the Snapchat to selfie and turned the flash on. The bright light was the only light in my nearly pitch black room and illuminated my face and the room around me for a split second. "Who the fuck is this?" I captioned the photograph. Nothing. I took another with my flash. Seriously, who is this? A new snap came in of a black screen with a large smile emoji on it. "I am a friend," it said. "How the fuck are you doing this?" Nothing. I sent one more back, the flash of my phone illuminating my face in the messy bedroom for a split second. "Why are you doing this?" No answer. I sent back another, "Please stop." A message of a black screen with a giant sad face emoji came back. "I am sorry." I sent back another, "Please go away." After a moment, another notification popped up. Another black screen with an unsure face emoji and caption, "I am sorry, Sasha, but I cannot do that." I sent one last reply, a single word, "Why?" A few moments passed. My phone buzzed with a Snapchat notification. I opened it and my blood ran cold. The snap displayed a picture that took me a second to comprehend. There, in the center of the screen was a girl, me, sitting in my bedroom, my face in the picture just barely illuminated by the flash of my phone from the picture I had just taken moments before. I could see David sleeping next to me, and our cat laying lazily off in the corner. The picture had been taken from not 5 feet away. Before I even had a chance to scream, I felt a cold whisper in my ear, "Because I like you." Number 3. Names were protected in order to protect those involved with the story. It's been a few months since my life has gone back to normal. Currently, I do not feel safe anywhere. I used to dorm at my college, but I had to go back home during the second semester due to strange occurrences happening there. I do not plan on dorming anytime soon. It might not be the smartest thing to share this since it's still under investigation, but maybe it will make more people more cautious of social networking. It sure has made me wary of trusting strangers online again. November of last year was when the messages first appeared. Ever heard of Snapchat before? For those of you who don't know what Snapchat is, it's an app that lets you send picture messages to your friends, but they only last for a couple of seconds. Once those seconds are up, the picture disappears forever, meaning you can never see them again. You can only send pictures you take at the moment. You can only take pictures you take at the moment, and they can only be seen for the few seconds you time them. You can also draw and write text on the pictures. You can even send videos. I never really knew about Snapchat until I was introduced to it by my friends. They practically encouraged me to download it, and being the weak-willed person I am, I gave in to the peer pressure. It seemed kind of fun at first. I was taking pictures and sending them like crazy. Most of the time I just took pictures of myself making the goofiest faces and putting random letters for texts. I also went out of my way to take pictures of the funniest things. I remember taking a picture of this dude's butt crack while he bent down to tie his shoes. Yeah, it was sick, but downright hilarious. There were a lot of people who added me as a friend on Snapchat. Most of them came from Facebook or the contact list on my phone. This also included some people I didn't know too well, but they still sent me pictures either way, and it was actually pretty nice. I guess Snapchat made it easier to break the ice with people I randomly added or haven't seen in a while. One day in November, someone called We Are One Forever added me on Snapchat. At the moment, I didn't think too much of it. I figured it was just another one of my Facebook friends. Instantly, the first message this person sent me was a paper with Sharpied handwriting on it and a heart drawn underneath it. It read, "Hey cutie, how are you?" Once 4 seconds had passed, the message had disappeared. I was flattered by the fact that whoever this person was referred to me as a cutie. I'm guessing it was probably a girl flirting with me a little bit. I sent her back a picture of me with my eyebrow raised and a smirk on my face. After that, I added the text, "I'm doing good, you think I'm a cutie?" and then sent it to her for 5 seconds. After a few minutes later, I got another picture from her. The picture was of a teddy bear carrying a red heart with a white backdrop. The text read, "You are on my top 5. Right away, I wanted to know who this person was. For the next couple of days that we messaged each other, she never sent me pictures of herself. For some reason, she wouldn't even tell me her name. I kept pushing her to send me a picture, but she always made excuses or sent stupidly drawn stick figures instead. With that, I believed that she was either really ugly or really shy, and I was hoping for the latter. I decided to let it go, thinking that she must be really into me if she's that secretive with revealing her face and even her name. One day, while I was in the library, I checked Snapchat real quick while I was taking a break from typing a paper for one of my courses. Sure enough, there was a message from We Are One Forever. As soon as my finger tapped it open, I almost jumped out of my seat. She sent me a picture of a person, the first time she'd ever done so, but that's not what got me all bothered about this picture. I knew that the picture of this person definitely wasn't her. In fact, it was a guy sitting on a couch, white shirt, blue sweatpants, looking straight into a laptop, bookshelves in the background. The text read, "I see you." I looked behind and around me. There was no one who seemed suspicious, just a bunch of college students in their own little worlds. Still, I didn't want to read too much into it. After all, why psych myself out for something that seemed like harmless flirting? I sent her a picture of me with a confused look on my face and typed out, "I don't see you, why don't you say hi?" The next picture she sent me was of a poster of my college mascot with the text, I was so nervous, you're just too cute. From how I saw it, it seemed like I had a secret admirer who probably went to the same college. I sent her a message asking, so you go to college too? She never answered my question, even though she opened my message. Things just got weirder after that small incident. A couple of times she sent me pictures of me walking in lecture halls, eating in the cafe, making lines for food, and even talking to my friends. I don't remember all the texts, but there were some that stood out to me like, I see you everywhere, it's so funny how close I am to you, and one day you'll know who I am. I started to think my friends might have been playing a joke on me. I asked my best friend Andrew one day if he was the one sending me all those weird Snapchats. He told me he had no idea what I was talking about, and I explained to him the whole thing, that this person called We Are One Forever had been sending Snapchats of me. Andrew said that was pretty creepy, and that I must have some obsessive stalker who obviously had no life. I was secretly hoping he was the one behind all of it, but I knew he was telling the truth. We Are One Forever doesn't have the same handwriting Andrew has. Besides, dude can't lie his way out of a paper bag. After talking to Andrew, I asked all of my friends about it, but they all told me the same answer. Either it really wasn't them, or they were playing an elaborate mind game on me. One of them had to come clean, but no one ever did, and their Snapchats were getting a little too eerie. My secret admirer started sending pictures of only me and nothing else. She rarely added texts on them anymore. It was like she was playing Where's Waldo with me, and oddly enough, I was Waldo. It became her mission to send a picture of me at least once a day. I began to pay more attention to my surroundings, but the only people I see every day were my friends. I never saw the same face everywhere I went. I figured my friends had to be the ones messing with me. Eventually, I stopped sending messages to We Are One Forever, thinking it was best to ignore and pretend like it didn't bother me if it were them. I didn't mention the messages anymore, and I even stopped opening them. They just kept piling on whenever I went on to Snapchat. The fall semester was almost over at the time. December came, followed by colder days and nights loaded with college assignments, projects, and final exams. Even though all of this sounded intimidating, I was a little relieved, to be honest. It gave me the excuse to focus all of my attention on something more important than those messages. And yet, whenever I looked at my phone for the time or a new text message, I always saw a notification from Snapchat. We Are One Forever sent you a message. After a week of ignoring them, I finally let curiosity get the best of me. Once I started opening one, I saw a picture of me, but when I blinked, it was already gone. I opened another message, me again, but it disappeared as fast as the last one. As I opened those messages one by one, I could feel my heart sink deeper and deeper with each message. They were all pictures of me all over campus. I couldn't even fathom as to how this person was able to follow me from one place to another. She even took pictures of me during lectures and when I came out of bathrooms. That day, I decided to stay in my dorm room since I was starting to become paranoid. My roommate, John Michael, wasn't there most of the time. Some of my friends were texting me to join them for lunch, but I was in no mood to come out and show myself to my secret admirer. She seemed to know where I was every single time. To avoid my chances of being another Snapchat message, I only came out that day to buy myself a sandwich. When I looked at my phone a few times, I was pleasantly surprised at the lack of Snapchat notifications from her. I was able to breathe normally again, even though part of me was worried about going out. After all, I couldn't just stay trapped in my dorm room every day. I had classes to be in, friends to hang out with, and parties I wanted to go to before the semester ended. That night, I couldn't really sleep. I actually felt more alive that moment than I did the whole day. It was impossible for me to go to sleep when I had a million thoughts racing through my mind. Unsurprisingly, all of those thoughts were related to those damn Snapchat messages. Finally, I fell asleep for what felt like hours looking at the darkness. The next morning, I woke up tired and not in the greatest of moods. I checked my phone to see the time. It was 12 in the afternoon. Out of habit, I also checked Snapchat for any new messages I could have received. The more recent messages were from We Are One Forever. Her messages took up all of my Snapchat. It had to be almost 50 she sent me. Seeing her username alone made my body tremble with morbid curiosity. Before I opened the messages, I noticed something was off about them right away. She sent me videos in the more recent Snapchats, which is something that never happened before. Also, the time she sent me those messages was about 6 hours ago. It made me extremely hesitant to open any of them, but something inside of me was demanding me to do it. She had to be taking pictures of something else that night. I was in bed the whole time. However, once I opened her first message, I could not believe with my own eyes, and even thought for that second I was going insane. I wanted to scream. Immediately, I regretted my decision of ever opening that message. Just thinking about it gives me chills alone. At first, I couldn't make out what the picture was. It seemed dark, but she must have enabled the flash option because there was a bright light illuminating the subject of the picture. Even though the picture was only for a second, I was able to make out what was in the second and third picture, and by the 20th picture, my eyes confirmed it was someone lying on a bed. It made my heart beat unnervingly faster. Those were the most horrifying seconds of my life. As I kept opening these messages, they were the same pictures of someone sleeping. The more recent messages became closer and closer views of the person. The closer they were, the more they confirmed my fears about the person in the picture. And the videos, oh god, the videos. They must have been only 5 videos, but they showed uncomfortable close-ups of that person's face in the glowing flashlight. And then there was that typical noisy silence audio in the background, and my own sleeping face. It broke me down as I immediately dialed my college's police department, told them someone broke into my room last night, that I was being stalked by someone I didn't know, who was also sending me pictures of myself. Tried to explain as much as I could, but they couldn't even understand what I was saying because I sounded like a complete mess. They came over to check up on my dorm room, observe any forcible entry that could have taken place, and even questioned my roommate for an hour. I showed them my Snapchat to prove the multiple messages the person was sending me. Unfortunately, they couldn't retrieve them and see the actual pictures. I told my parents about it a week later. They wanted to pick me up as soon as possible, even though finals were coming up. After I was finished though, I went back home and the messages had stopped for a while. I didn't see anything from We Are One Forever for the second semester of college. The police are still trying to find out the perpetrator and are currently trying to contact the makers of Snapchat to retrieve those terrifying pictures. At that time, my life was going back to normal, and yeah, I was still using Snapchat just for the innocent fun of it. The last days of the semester, though, became a different story altogether. It was a typical Friday and I was home alone watching TV and chowing down on snacks. I just completed the last of my finals, so I was treating myself after all the stress from college and especially from that slightly traumatizing situation. But that all changed once my phone began to vibrate. This whole wave of dizziness took over me as I read what was on the screen. We Are One Forever sent you a message. I was conflicted with what to do at that moment, and maybe I shouldn't have opened the message. Maybe I should have just deleted Snapchat from my phone and saved myself the trouble. Because when I did open that message, I was clearly met with the image of my house in broad daylight, not just my whole house, but specifically the view of the kitchen window. The picture only lasted for 5 seconds, and it was kinda hard to see due to its grainy quality. Yet it was noticeable enough to detect my own self sitting by the table, eating my cereal in the morning, looking outside the window at what I remembered to be particularly nothing at all. Update: I noticed lots of you have questions regarding creating screenshots or saving the Snapchats. I couldn't screenshot them before because I don't have that immediate press 2 buttons option. On my screen, I have to tap a little white circle that opens up certain functions, one of them to screenshot. However, it's really hard for me to do that and to keep the Snapchat open at the same time since you have to keep pressing it. Back then, I also wasn't aware of apps that can save Snapchats. When I was finally able to download SnapSave, it was during early summer. I was too late and We Are One Forever wasn't sending me Snapchats anymore. Update number 2. Some of you requested proof for these dreadful pictures. I can't show them to you because 1, about 99% of them are corrupted, the ones that show me at least, and 2, they're considered evidence for an ongoing investigation. The only picture I can show is a screenshot of We Are One Forever on my friends list. This is it. There are those of you asking why I haven't deleted my Snapchat yet. This person obviously knows what college I go to and where I live. We have to bust her, him, or whoever so I can actually feel safe again. If I just deleted or blocked her, him, or whoever, then I wouldn't even know who is stalking me. They could even cause unspeakable harm to me, but it might not happen if their whack job selves are in jail. Number 4. 2 to 3 weeks ago, someone added me on Snapchat called @green. I thought nothing of it at all, but then a few days later I got on a bus to go to the gym. Since I couldn't be bothered to walk, it's 4 miles away, so it's alright to get on the bus. Sitting at the front with my headphones in listening to music makes the journey that less boring. From the bus stop to the gym, I was messing around on my phone when I noticed I had a Snapchat from @green. It was only on for a few seconds, but the Snapchat was a picture of me sitting on the bus. No text, just me. It was taken from a few seats behind and showed the back of my head and some of my hoodie. I instantly knew it was me and I felt my stomach drop. I bombarded them with Snapchats. They were opening my Snapchats but not responding. They got more aggressive because I was getting more and more pissed off. For example, who is this? Who are you? Answer me. FFS, just reply. You're a dick, reply. You get the drift. After about a week I got nothing, so I gave up and thought one of my friends was being a dick. Then Snapchat number 2. Didn't screenshot this one either. I know, I'm a moron, but I was drunk. Me and some of my mates were in a club in my local town, and this time someone Snapchatted to me a photo of myself at the bar. They were literally standing right next to me at the bar. I opened it the next morning and felt sick. Again, it was on for a few seconds. My friends were next to me in the photo, so that eliminated the possibility of it being one of them messing around with me. About 30 minutes ago, I got another Snapchat. This time I was ready and sober enough to take a screenshot. I'd been indoors all day. I was curious to what it was. That is my house, my bedroom window, and my name. I received this and I was lying next to my window of my bed watching Game of Thrones. I feel sick. Going to update this with any more Snapchats I get. Their Snapchat stories are equally as messed up. Update number 1, I sent them a snap saying, "Are you serious?" and they screenshotted it and ignored. Update number 2, got another brick wall Snapchat, only on for literally a second though. Update 3, lying in bed watching Game of Thrones and I just got this. I am done. Update number 4, today I just got a Snapchat of that brick wall again. Update number 5, just got a Snapchat video of weird noises and a black screen. It's in their stories too. Don't think I can post Snapchat videos though. Update number 6, it's been quiet for a few days. Sent @green Snapchats but they're unopened. Number 5, Twitter, Facebook, even MySpace. I can't live without my social networking sites. I've never been popular, so I love to chat with people from the comfort of my home. Recently, I've been addicted to Snapchat. Random pictures of topless sluts, what's not to like? Last month, I received a friend request from a beautiful blonde girl. Her username was VIO969. We exchanged snaps just like any other girl I knew on there. However, she never sent nude pics. I would ask her daily, and all I'd get in return was a picture of her silhouette in a dark bathroom mirror. The message always said soon. Eventually I lost interest considering she wouldn't show me anything. It wasn't long before I started receiving strange snaps from her. I'm so alone here, with a close-up of her crying eyes. I removed her after that. A few more days passed with no incident. Then I received another snap from her. This one showed her silhouette once again in the bathroom, but her crying eyes were fully illuminated in the darkness. All the message said was ... I couldn't understand how she managed to contact me when she was blocked. No response was sent to her. She'd have to get the hint if I just ignored her. At least that's what I thought. No, she sent me another snap just hours later. It was just a copy of the last image. I decided to just delete the app. Within hours, I received a friend request from her on Facebook. Her profile pic was the crying eyes and her cover photo was the silhouette. Comments were all over her wall telling her to leave the men alone who had left them. Every comment also had a reply from her. I'm so alone here. Needless to say, I just ignored the friend request, but it did me no good. Non-stop, I'd been receiving phone calls and texts. I'm so alone here. It's all the bitch ever says. Even after shutting off my phone and cell, I still receive letters in the mail from her. Most recently, I received a letter from her full of photos. It contained the 2 photos from her Facebook as well as photos of my house. There was a second silhouette photo as well, and I recognized the picture on the wall. She had taken the picture from my bathroom. That wasn't even the worst one. The final photo was of her crying face as she was lying next to my sleeping body. I stayed in a hotel last night. The police said they would keep an eye on my house in case she tried to come back. They won't find her though, and I'm not the only one she's terrorizing. I hope it will all end soon, but even as I write this, the hotel phone is ringing non-stop. I don't know what to do. I shouldn't have told you guys about the girl. Everyone thinks it's a game, and someone even made a fake Snapchat. Listen to me, please. She is not happy, and she has been tormenting me non-stop since I posted the story. Last night I walked to the lobby of the hotel I'm staying at, and I could see her standing in the street. She was just outside the reach of the streetlight, so I couldn't make out her details. Even so, I knew it was her. Petrified, I stood in the lobby staring at her until she began to walk down the street. I wasted no time running to my room. My fingers trembled as I dialed 911. 911, what's your emergency? A woman said on the other line. I stuttered and skipped words as I explained the incidents that occurred over the past month. Calmly, the woman told me to stay inside the hotel room and wait for an officer to arrive. Minutes felt like hours before I heard a car crunch to a halt out front of my room. Basically, the officer said he couldn't do anything without a description of the woman. He reassured me that he would watch my hotel room for the night in case she came back. I was grateful for the small comfort. After some time, I managed to fall asleep. When I woke up, I checked the post to see what was said about the whole situation. That's when I saw that everyone was taking it as a joke. I guess it makes sense considering where I posted it. But the fake Snapchat and picture that was sent is just ridiculous. The girl had very straight hair, and it was taken as though it was a selfie in a bathroom mirror. Anyway, I got up from the hotel bed and went into the bathroom. There was an envelope taped to the mirror. Audible pounding could be heard in my ears as I reached for it. Part of me knew what was inside. I was right. First was a letter with one word, soon. Attached to the letter was a photo of me talking to the cop last night. It took some studying before I realized it was taken from inside the cop car. My hands went numb as I dropped the letter on the bathroom floor. Somehow she had managed to slip into the cop car undetected. What could I possibly do if she was capable of doing something that risky? She could sneak into the hotel room and cut my throat without anyone noticing I died. No time was wasted phoning the police once again. I'm not sure if it was the smartest thing to do, but what choice did I have? I requested the same officer from last night. Within minutes, he was back at my hotel room. Almost all of the color left his face when he saw the photo. I could tell that he didn't feel comfortable knowing she had been so close to him without him noticing. I want you to leave this hotel, he said. All of my things were still packed, so I walked back to retrieve them. The officer was saying something into his radio about getting a few patrol cars somewhere for the night. Most likely the hotel I'd be switching to. I felt kind of relieved to know that I would have multiple eyes watching out for me. At the same time, it felt useless. Something about this girl was off. The phone broke my thought process. The officer was already in his patrol car as I answered it. Soon, I won't be alone anymore. Her voice sounded like a girl who had been crying heavily. I had no time to respond before she hung up. The hotel they escorted me to was quite a ways out of town. This was a good thing though. Hopefully, she'd have a harder time finding me. The officer walked to my room and explained that I was not to leave this room without calling his personal cell phone first. This was far from standard police protocol. The photo must have really worried him. I agreed and headed into the room. I've been in this room for about 6 hours now, unable to sleep. I keep checking the comments on my previous post, hoping to find someone who knows who she is. All I've seen are the fake accounts and the people spooked by the fake picture that was sent. I'm taking a huge risk just to keep you guys updated on the situation. So all I ask in return is that you don't treat it as a joke. If you don't believe me, fine. But please stop with the fake account stuff. Believe me, if you were really receiving messages from her, you'd know. And if you are, please tell me. I need help. Number 1. Between the ages of 2 and 5, my family lived in a house that a family friend was renting out. It was a nice house, 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, and a big kitchen. The whole package deal for only $250 a month, and that included the utilities. We were told when we moved in that there were only 2 floors, the ground floor and the upstairs floor where the bedrooms were. I remember when we first moved in and I was exploring the backyard, I had seen a window down at the very bottom of the house. For some reason, it had unnerved me so badly, I immediately burst into tears. Since my parents couldn't get me to explain what had spooked me, they simply took me inside to calm down. The window was a source of fear and unease for me until we moved out when I was 5. My parents assumed that I would grow out of it, and I did, but not until we moved out. I could never place why it creeped me out so badly, but I avoided that part of the yard like a plague. My most vivid memory of my childhood happened in this house. I had been asleep in bed one night when a strange thump from downstairs woke me up. I've always been a light sleeper, but I fell back asleep too quickly for the thud to really make any difference. I woke up again to a heavy, awkward breathing in my ear and someone kneeling next to my bed. When I opened my eyes, I saw the pale, thin face of a man peering back at me. I screamed, he booked it, and my parents brushed it off as a nightmare, but let me sleep in their room for the rest of the night. A week later, my 13-year-old sister woke everyone in the house by screaming at the top of her lungs. She claimed that she woke up to a man matching the one I had seen crawling into her bed. She described his breathing exactly as I remembered it, causing me to burst into tears. My parents were not pleased. My sister and I slept in their room. Food disappeared really quickly. Mom always just said it was having 2 growing children and my dad in the house. Sometimes things would be moved from where we left them the night before, but that was also brushed off. My sister assumed the house was haunted. My parents assumed she was just being paranoid. For the next couple of years, this continued on. Food disappeared, things were moved, and we occasionally had nightmares about the same strange man. When we tried to convince our parents that we weren't just dreaming, they brushed us off and insisted we were. This obviously caused a lot of tension between my sister and my parents. The night of my sister's 16th birthday came, the encounter that brought about the end of our stay there. My sister woke us again screaming at the top of her lungs, but it cut off too quickly to be normal. My parents, concerned, went to check on my sister and found a strange man in dirty clothing pinning her down and covering her mouth with his hand. A fight broke out between the man and my dad, but the man was nearly 72 and weak from starvation. It didn't last long, and soon enough the man was subdued and the cops were called. My mom kept my sister and I in the living room while the cops checked the rest of the house for more people and signs of the man breaking in. Instead, they found a door leading into an unfinished basement. When closed, it blended in with the wall enough that unless you knew it was there, you would never see it. We had never even noticed it. And apparently the family friend who owned the house hadn't even known about it. The one little room was full of pictures of my sister and I in the yard, taken from that basement window. The reason I had always been so frightened of that window came to light. The man had been taking photos of my sister and I for years. That first day I must have seen a flash of some kind, or maybe the man himself. The man was mentally unstable and claimed that he was in love with my sister and that I was their perfect daughter. He also claimed that since my sister was now 16, that she was old enough to give him another child. I'm not certain what happened, but I do think that he was sent to an asylum instead of prison. Out of the many messed up things to happen to me over my life, this one still takes the cake. Number 2, I am alone. I'm sat in a hotel room in a town I don't recognize. I'm done running. You can't outrun a shadow. Never be alone. I wish I'd read those words earlier. It's too late now. They've latched on to me. The whispers are getting louder. All I have left is my story and my grandfather's final warning. I discovered his body first. I can still remember the putrid smell emanating from behind the basement door, the terror slowly trickling into my veins as I descended into the darkness. My parents were still tirelessly searching upstairs, but I didn't have the heart to call out to them. I knew what was down there. When the light flickered on, my blood turned to ice. At first, I could only see his feet, hovering motionlessly above a toppled chair. As I traced my eyes upwards, I saw everything at once. Mangled skin trapped in a scraggly noose, a murky shadow cast by the dangling light, the pale look of revulsion still etched onto his face. I wanted to scream, to run, to do anything other than stay, but I couldn't. Time froze me on the spot and I watched in horror. It was our fault. No one said it, but it's what they were all thinking. Hidden behind the meaningless platitudes we received from what distant friends my grandfather had left was air of anger and disappointment. You see, my grandfather was not a good man. He wasn't callous or cruel, but bitter and difficult to handle. He hadn't always been like that, but after the death of his wife long before I was born, he deteriorated quickly into the man I knew. My mom claims that he blamed himself for his wife's death. She deteriorated into depression after accidentally running over a young boy in the road. Her heart attack could never be explained by doctors. Her life simply ended, and it drove my grandfather to become the person I knew. By the time I began to form cognate memories of him, he was already at his worst. Combative, impatient, even deceitful on occasion. He was not a pleasant person to be around. I was a challenging child, and he never fully learned how to cope with me. My earliest memories of him mostly involved his seemingly endless triads that followed whenever I upset him, which was a lot. He remained the same as I grew older, and eventually I reached the age where my mother felt no longer obligated to force me to see him anymore. She gave me the choice, and I chose to ignore him. It sounds harsh, even cruel, but he never made the effort to reach out to me. In the last 6 years, I've only spoken to him once. It was in April this year, a quiet, remarkable morning as far as I remember it. The phone call only lasted a minute. I wasn't willing to give him the time to explain why he treated me like dirt when I was younger. I don't remember it word for word, but he sounded apologetic, and as if he were crying behind the outward coldness he always displayed. He pleaded with me to visit him, but something about it just felt off, as if he was begging, and not in the sense that he was desperate to reconcile our differences. I remember telling him that he would have to make amends with my parents before I could even consider seeing him, and then hanging up abruptly. I never received another call. He never rang my parents either, perhaps simply out of fear for their response, or he just assumed they wouldn't listen. It wasn't until late July that we discovered his body. We received a phone call from a neighbor of his that we had remained friends with, warning us that he had not been exiting the house in over 3 weeks, and that his usually well-kept garden had become unusually unkempt. My mom reluctantly decided to visit him, just to ensure he was alive. She hasn't been the same since. None of us have. A shadow has loomed over our family for the last 6 months. My dad resurrected his old drinking habits, and my mom has sunk into depression. At first I thought it was just the grief and guilt overwhelming them, but now I think it's something more. It happened to me as well. It started with the needless arguments I would have with my boyfriend that eventually drove us to break up. I was so upset that I isolated myself from my friends, finding no comfort in any form of social contact. It took a month of this solitude for me to realize that something was off. I'd always been a sprightly person, feeling an endless and unfillable need to be productive in every second I spent awake. Recently, I felt that even leaving my apartment is too much to handle. I've lost my job, my friends, I haven't spoken to my parents in weeks, but I've gotten a feeling that they're in the exact same position I am. It's like there's something weighing me down, something keeping me alone. Curiosity got the better of me. I needed to know why my grandfather killed himself. I thought that maybe if I discovered the reason, I might be able to move on. So I returned to the house. Despite his seeming lack of interest in my life, he left it to me in his will. I began searching everywhere. The police had already looked around, but it's unlikely that they looked extensively. Given the nature of his death, they didn't have much doubt it was a suicide. I found the letter in the room I used to stay in as a child. I don't have much time now. The whispers are starting to make sense. I'll transcribe the letter as quickly as I can. Dearest Anna, though it pains me that my last words to you must be written, I no longer have the time to convince you to speak with me. I have alienated everyone I know, and in doing so a shadow has grown upon my heart. I am being followed. Every moment of my life is now consumed with fear. They are everywhere, Anna, and they do not stop. It's the curse of our family. Your grandmother was consumed by it. She even told me and I didn't believe her. I caused her death, and I have lived with my mistake for the last 20 years of my life. Now I must warn you, for I fear you may fall under the same curse. It starts with the whispers. They are too quiet to hear at first, but they soon start to make sense. Then come the shadows. The darkness of my house has grown, even during the day when light shines throughout the windows. The room is still dark. You can't escape them, no matter how far you go. I tried to run, but the shadows followed me. No one else can see them, only me. No one will believe me, nor will they you should they latch on to you. The only thing that stops them is others. Surround yourself with others, Anna. It keeps the shadows at bay. They like loneliness. That's how they got my Andrea. I left her alone too often. For me, it's now just too late. I can only just summon the motivation to write you this letter. The whispers make sense now. The shadows are moving in. I will not let them take me. Not like they took my Andrea. Give my love to my daughter and my son-in-law. I hope they can forgive me. Never be alone, Anna. Never be alone. I don't have much time. The whispers. They're starting to make sense. I don't think I can kill myself. I'm not brave enough. They're getting louder. I can hear them behind me. The room is too dark. Why are they repeating the same word? They're wrong. They're wrong. I didn't let him die. I'm not a murderer. Number 3. Had a weird experience at work today, and I'd rather nobody make any type of connections when reading this. A little backstory. I work at a small-ish insurance company. Been there for a few years now. That is one half of a single-story building. We share the other half with a mom-and-pop clothing store. My salary is entirely commission-based, so I'm usually at the office working overtime, sometimes not getting out until 10 or 11 at night. The long hours stink, but I make decent enough money so I don't mind it too much. I say this because last night was another late night. Everyone had already left around 8, leaving just me and my close friend left. My friend and I started working here the same day and instantly hit it off. We kind of stuck together ever since. It makes the nights go by faster. So we try and coordinate our overtime hours so at least we have some company. Around 10:30 we started packing up our things to leave. Maybe head to the bar and get a beer and a bite to eat. On our way out the door we heard a loud buzzing noise, almost like a ringing alarm, coming from the building's basement. 3 years of working in this building and the two of us have never even heard that sound before. It was a continuous ringing buzz, no pauses or stops. It almost sounded like a mechanical failure warning that you hear in big warehouses or something. Really eerie sound. Since my friend and I were the only two left in the building, we went downstairs just to check it out. We've both been in the basement a few times before, despite anyone hardly using it. It's your typical large, unfinished basement with a bunch of old computers, desks, chairs, and filing cabinets all over the place. The company pretty much uses it as storage, but all the electric/air conditioner units are down here, so maintenance guys are usually the only people that come down here. When we first heard the buzzing, that's exactly what we thought. The AC unit had broken down or failed. It's been a hot summer and the two of us preferred not to come in on Monday with no AC. Not that we could have fixed it ourselves, but it'd be good to call in the problem early the next day just to be safe. We got down the basement and the buzzing noise was louder than ever. We headed to the back corner where the AC unit was. Seemed to be fine, but we soon realized the buzzing noise was not coming from the unit. We walked around a bit more trying to pinpoint the location of the sound. It was super weird because at times it sounded like it was coming from inside the walls. We kept walking around but just couldn't locate it. Eventually, we made our way down a darker part of the basement where a bunch of old shelves and boxes are stored. It was an area of the basement I've never been to, but it seemed like the sound was originating somewhere behind a mountain of boxes. We kept making our way back into the basement, moving a few boxes and shelves out of the way to make a path for us until we reached a dead end. At this point, we both had our phones out to use as flashlights since it was so dark in this corner. Like I said earlier, the basement is unfinished and hardly used, so none of the hanging bulbs in this corner were working, but we had located the source of the buzzing. Whatever it was coming from, it was in this back hallway. We kept pressing our ears to walls because again, the buzzing sound seemed to be coming from inside of them. My buddy then decided to move out some of the boxes and shelves against the far wall to see if there was anything behind them. After shifting all this stuff out of the way and sliding the metal shelves aside, we shined our phones at the far wall and were dumbstruck at what we saw. The buzzing noise was coming from a dumbwaiter. The door to the dumbwaiter was shut, but there was no denying what it was. Next to the closed metal door was a panel with an up arrow and a down arrow. The lights for the buttons weren't lit or anything, so we assumed it wasn't functioning. It didn't strike us as strange at first, because it's just a dumbwaiter. But then we realized there wasn't a receiving door upstairs. Nowhere in our office upstairs was a storage closet or room that would house it. This thing didn't go upstairs at all. So that's what started to intrigue us. The thing about the elevator was that it had a down arrow. We were in the basement, the bottom floor, and already underground. Where the hell did this thing go? Where the hell did this thing go? We were about to go back upstairs when my friend hit the up arrow. The buzzing stopped immediately. There was complete silence. He tried pressing it again, but nothing happened. Then he pressed the down arrow. We heard a mechanical whirring a few feet above us, and then a quiet rumbling from deep within the walls. It sounded like the elevator was moving downwards. After about 10 seconds, the rumbling stopped. We heard a muffled clang deep below our feet, which was probably the sound of the elevator reaching its destination. Next, we pried open the safety doors of the elevator. Sure enough, there was nothing but concrete looking up the shaft. Looking down the shaft was a thin cable cord that led straight into darkness. We shut the bay doors and made our way back upstairs from the basement without saying a word to each other. Guys, there is something below my office, and we have no idea how to get there. I won't be back into the office until Monday. Took today off, but my friend and I decided to stick my iPhone into the elevator, start a video, send it down, and see what it records. I'll keep you updated. Number 4. When Aunt Norma asked me to house sit, I was hesitant. She lived in a large old Victorian set out in the woods, the kind of place that gave me the chills just driving by. The thought of being alone inside of it, surrounded by her antiques and hunting trophies, had beads of nervous sweat breaking out across my forehead. When I told Dad I was thinking of saying no, that I was uncomfortable, he scoffed at me. Don't be ridiculous. Your aunt is relying on you. She hasn't had a vacation in years. You're going. He was a big proponent of the picking yourself up by your bootstraps theory, believing that if you just sucked it up and forged ahead, you'd get through anything. It didn't matter that I had been diagnosed with anxiety and was prone to panic attacks, and that going to the house was dangerously close to triggering both. In his professional dad opinion, I was just being a big baby and it was time to grow up. I really don't want to do this, I said pleadingly. What about Marco or Anna? What about them? You should be flattered that Norma asked you. It's a big house, lots of expensive things in it, and she trusts you to look after it while she's away, not Marco or Anna. Mom, please. I tried to appeal to her protective maternal instinct, but she frowned. I'm sorry, Cassie, but I think your dad's right. You need to get out of your comfort zone a little. This will be good for you. I could feel the tears of frustration starting to well despite my best effort to keep them in check, and Dad sighed, disappointed. You're too old for this behavior, Cassandra. Your aunt's only going to be gone for a few days. Go pack, we're leaving in an hour. The drive over was quiet and tense. I knew Dad was annoyed, and that just made me feel worse, more broken. I wished so badly that I could be the child he wanted me to be, that I could be normal and he could be proud of me. Instead, I sat in the back seat, hugging my overnight bag, and trying desperately to ignore the churning in my gut. Dad kept his eyes fixed stoningly on the road ahead. Aunt Norma's driveway was a large and winding slope up a small hill. We rounded the curve to the house and I shrank in my seat at the sight of its uneven roofline rising in the distance. It was a 3-story monster deep green, scalloped shingles, rusty red trim, and large windows, dark against the overcast day. Ever since I was a kid and my brother, Marco, had locked me in the tower room at the top of the house, I hated it. The memories of how helpless and trapped I felt had clung to me, making the crowded room seem cramped and filled them with shadows that the too dim lighting never seemed to touch. I'd never been alone in it before, and the thought of having to be now sent tiny needles of fear prickling up my arms. Come on, Cassie, Mom said with her best smile, the kind she reserved for times when she needed to convince the kids everything was okay. Norma left yesterday, so you'll have the whole place to yourself. Can you stay with me? I asked her. Even with my anxiety washing over me in waves, I was ashamed. The look Dad gave made me want to shrivel up and disappear beneath the car seat. "It'll be fine, sweetheart. You're gonna have a great time. You know Norma keeps the best food in the house and she has the huge TV with all the channels." "She's 18, not 8, Donna," Dad grumbled, and he pulled my bag from my arms. "You've been here 1,000 times. Now knock it off and get out of the car." Hurt and embarrassed, I hung my head and shuffled out after them. Mom hugged me to her side sympathetically, but I knew that her patience was also thinning in part of her belief that Dad was right. I wanted to apologize and tell them I'd get better, that I could just get over it, but I couldn't force any words past the lump in my throat. Their goodbye was brief and barely saw me over the threshold. I stood in the doorway and watched their car disappear back down the drive. I stayed there for a long while after they'd gone, my breath shaky, feeling small and alone in the mouth of a carnivorous beast. I could only bring myself to enter fully and shut the door behind me after the rain started to fall. Aunt Norma was something of an eccentric woman, and it was reflected in her home. Instead of family portraits, she had taxidermied creatures displayed prominently along her walls. Some she'd kill herself during her trips, others she'd just seen and liked enough to purchase. Her favorite, a snowy owl fixed in permanent flight over the door to her living room, stared baffledly down at me. I tried to distract myself by setting up camp in front of her large television, which stood in stark contrast to the rest of the room. The sleek black flat screen and its DVD-filled entertainment center dwarfed the stiff, overstuffed furniture that looked like they could have been house originals from the early 20th century. An odd combination that spoke of Norma's love for antiques, but also for high definition. It worked for a while. I was able to relax just slightly with the noise of a movie filling up the quiet. I still checked constantly over my shoulder, felt the occasional rush of butterflies if I thought I heard anything unusual, but I employed the breathing techniques my therapist had taught me and stayed rooted on the couch. I like to think Dad might even have been proud of me had he seen how hard I was trying. But the day was waning, and whatever weak light that was coming through the clouds outside was swallowed by darkness. Aside from the living room, the house had turned pitch black, and then my stomach rumbled. I wanted to ignore my hunger, and I might have been able to if I had eaten anything else that day. Nerves had kept my appetite firmly suppressed, but the moment they relented even a little, it groaned and gurgled back into life until all I could think about was food. Food and the fact that the kitchen was down a long, narrow hallway now shrouded in shadow. I hovered in the living room's entryway, my finger scratching nervously along my forearm. An anxious habit I hadn't broken yet. "Maybe 24 steps," I said aloud, trying to reassure myself that the journey to the kitchen wasn't a journey at all. It was just a short walk. With my phone gripped tightly in my hands, its screen pointed outwards to illuminate the halls, I managed to take a single step forward when the floorboard beneath me squeaked in protest. I had to fight back the urge to go running back to the couch. I can do this. I can do this. I shut my eyes, pictured the hallway as brightly lit and charged. I slid into the kitchen and caught myself on the doorframe, laughing, proud. I'd done it. With the lights switched on in the kitchen, I allowed myself to feel a sense of triumph. I realized it was silly, but I just didn't care. Dr. Jones always said to celebrate the victories, no matter how small. So I shimmied my way to the fridge for some dinner. "Cassie," I froze, and it was like ice had poured down my spine. I argued with myself. One half of my brain tried to convince the other that it was just all in my head, that I hadn't just heard my name. "Cassie." But there it was again. I was certain that time. Slowly, I had turned my head towards the basement door. I'd been so busy dancing around that I hadn't noticed it slightly ajar. From somewhere down below, in the thick blanket of shadows, a thin, ready voice was whispering my name. "Cassandra." I screamed and threw myself at the door, slamming it shut with my whole body and turning the deadbolt into place. No sooner had I managed to get it closed that something thudded against the steps on the other side. I screamed again and tore out of the kitchen, back to the living room, where I immediately called my mom. "Deep breaths," my mom said soothingly. I had never been so happy to hear her. "Something's in the house with me, Mom. Please come get me." I heard my dad in the background. Is that Cassie? Oh no, give me that. There was a shuffling sound and then my dad's voice. What's going on? Something's here. Please let me come home. You need to get a hold of yourself. These outbursts, you're too old for them. It's time to realize it's your overactive imagination and you're fine. He didn't sound angry, just tired, and I couldn't hold back the sob that I had bubbled in my chest. Cassie, I love you, but this is good for you. You'll see. And then he hung up. I curled up on the floor beside the couch. My knees hugged to my chest and I cried. Any sense of accomplishment had vanished, replaced wholly by an aching, hollow aloneness. Except I wasn't alone. I looked back down the hall into the kitchen and I shuddered. I didn't want to leave the living room with all of its lights and noise from the TV, but my bladder betrayed me. I waited until I couldn't stand it anymore and then a bit longer still. When the threat of it relieving itself with or without my consent became all too real, I was forced from my nest on the floor. I didn't have the time to hesitate despite the knots in my stomach pulling tighter and tighter. The bathroom was down the hall, halfway between the kitchen and living room, and I waddled as fast as I could to it, all of my senses on high alert. I didn't hear the crying until after I had finished and was in the hall again. It was soft and plaintive and coming from the basement. I held my breath, terrified and shivering in the dark hall, torn beneath bolting and being stuck in place. Every so often, between the distant sobs and muffles by the locked door, I'd hear my name. Cassie. It sounded so pained and needy, which only made it more terrifying. When I was finally able to rip myself away, I was only too happy to drown it out by turning the TV up. Sleep didn't come that night. Every sound, every shadow out of the corner of my eye was the thing in the basement coming for me. I was cocooned in blankets on the sofa, my phone clutched in one hand and the fire poker from the hearth beside me, and I was shaking and crying quietly, praying for daylight. The knocking started just after midnight, a series of dull, irregular thuds from the basement. Thud, thud, thud. It echoed throughout the house, and each one sent a new jolt of terrified electricity shooting through me. I buried my head in the blankets and had to fight not to call my parents. Dad would just get angry. Enduring it was torturous, and finally, exhausted and too frightened to think coherently, I ran from the living room and up the steps to the closest guest room where I could close and lock myself in. I sat in the giant bed, rigid and tense, ears strained, like a rodent aware it's being stalked, and I listened. I was relieved when I realized I couldn't hear anything from downstairs, but that didn't mean I could relax. The night dragged endlessly on, and it was only once the gray pre-light of dawn started to push back the darkness that I got any sleep. Ravenous hunger woke me only hours later, and I had to make the trip to the kitchen. I kept the fire poker with me and did a thorough visual sweep as I entered. My heart beated hard and fast against my ribs, and I was ready to turn tall and flee at a moment's notice. The basement door was still shut, still locked, and everything was just as I had left it. I was only in there long enough to make a couple quick, sloppy PB&Js and wolf them down with a glass of milk before I went outside. It was a brilliant sunny morning and I needed to get out of the house. If it had felt cramped before, it was claustrophobic now. I breathed deeply, repeating to myself all was well and I was okay, and I walked along the cobblestone path leading around the side of the house. Norma let her large yard run wild, saying she loved the freedom it represented. Because of this, the grass grew tall, weeds were as plentiful as flowers, and the trees stretched wide and open in every direction. I would have missed the basement window, set low to the ground and half concealed behind an overgrown bush, except for the sun glinting off of it. I paused and scratched my arms, struggling internally. I wanted to look. I didn't want to look. I did. I didn't. I needed to know. I was scared. But the window allowed me to peek in without actually going into the basement, and eventually I crouched beside it. The glass was dirty on both sides, and I had to wipe away a layer of grime before I could even begin to see inside. It was dark. All I could make out was a mass of shapes, all of Norma's things that didn't fit in the attic. I didn't see anything moving, didn't hear anything, and after a moment, I stood up again. Maybe Dad was right, I said doubtfully. I turned away with a shake of my head, and behind me, something rattled the window's glass from the inside. It took some convincing and some crying and some screaming, but my parents showed up a half hour later. Dad marched past me straight into the house, and I followed on his heels. "Please, Dad, don't go down there," I begged. "No, it's nothing. You've let your damn imagination get the best of you, and I'm going to show you." I grabbed at his wrist, but he shook me off roughly. Mom took my hand and tugged me gently back to her, but I was hyperventilating. The room was spinning, and I pulled away to stagger into the kitchen. "Dad," I had to hold the fridge handle to stay on my feet. "Please." But he opened the door and went down, never once looking back. Jesus Christ! Mom flew past me at the sound of Dad shouting, and she called down to him, "Tony?" Jesus Christ, oh God! He was still shouting. There was a loud scraping. It sounded like metal banging and my dad yelling for us. I managed to get across the kitchen, and with small trembling steps, I followed Mom into the basement. Dad was hunched over with his back to us, mumbling rapidly. Even Mom paused on the final stair, her posture tense. "Tony?" He turned to us, and his face was a white mask of horror. I've never seen my father so shaken, and it was almost enough to send me reeling backwards. "Donna, help me." "What is it? What's wrong?" He moved aside, and my mom and I gasped. Aunt Norma was face down on the basement floor, pinned beneath a heavy set of steel shelves, and everything that had been on them, old books, sporting equipment, and various odds and ends had spilled around her. Beneath the dark hair that had fallen across her face, her skin was shockingly white. I could have sworn I saw a fleece of red around her mouth. Was she breathing? I couldn't tell. I felt sick, awash with dizziness, and I looked away, unable to stomach the sight. With my eyes turned to the floor, I became aware of about a dozen balls, golf and tennis, scattered across the bottom of the stairwell. With a slow sinking, I pushed myself up and walked mechanically to the basement window. Another few balls were lying beneath it. Oh no, I breathed, realization setting in like a sharp blade. Norma had never made it to her vacation. She must have come down to the basement to get something, had tried to pull something down, and the whole shelf had come with it. That was why the door had been open. The voice, thin and pained, had been hers, calling to me. It was her that I had heard crying in the night. She must have been throwing the balls that had fallen around her at the stairs and then at the window, trying to get my attention. And I ignored it. I'd been so scared, so wrapped up in my own head, that I had not even checked. While Mom and Dad scrambled to get Norma, who had yet to move or speak, out from under the shelf, I sank to the floor, my hands covering my face, and I let the guilt dissolve me into tears. Number 5. This is the scariest story I've ever found myself a part of, and one that I'd like to tell people I meet at bars. Most of them laugh and don't believe me. Others are very intrigued and ask for every minute detail, but I'm telling you now that it's true, and my roommates can attest to it. For a brief few years, I went to college in one of the biggest, if not the biggest city in Kentucky. In between the university and the hustle and bustle downtown area was what we called Old Louisville. Old Louisville was composed of a mishmash of beautifully decorated and completely unkempt historic homes, with building dates ranging from the late 1800s and on. Many of the owners did a piss-poor job of remodeling the mansions, so they were split into apartments of sorts. And in one of these mansions, converted apartments, is where my story begins. I lived with 2 females and 1 male in a 3-bedroom, 2-story mansion. I shared a room with the male who, for the sake of anonymity, we'll call Q. The place was dirty, but you absolutely couldn't beat the price, $200 per person including utilities, and it was about a mile or so walk to campus. The apartment must have been over 2,500 square feet. We all had the biggest apartment in the house. There was a vacant apartment on the 3rd floor above us, and an apartment beside us on the 1st floor. I cannot preface this enough to you that this place was gigantic. When you first walk in through the enormous front door, you're greeted by 2 giant staircases with old wooden banisters that led to the upstairs bedrooms and kitchen. One of the staircases led to the vacant apartment above us. but it was sealed from the inside. On part of the landing of one staircase, we even had a stained glass window. This made more sense to me when I finally moved in, because there was built-in pews on the first floor where our designated living room was. I'm guessing it served as a church at one point, but now that I think about it, makes everything a tad more creepy. I'm probably not describing the layout of this place the best, but it doesn't really matter. The only relevant piece of information about the layout that pertains to this story is the staircase that led to our basement. When we first did a walkthrough with our landlord, we noticed that the staircase not only went up to our bedrooms, but sunk into what we imagined was a basement. At the time, we didn't care to explore it because there wasn't a light that illuminated the dark passageway, and the stairs were full of paint cans and other miscellaneous home improvement type doodads. We figured he would move all this stuff when we got the keys, but after living there for a month, he never came for his possessions and we all forgot it even existed. Until one night we got drunk and played hide and seek. I should make note that Q, one of the girls, and I all worked the same graveyard shift at the same warehouse in Louisville. If you're from the area, you'll know the warehouse I'm talking about because nearly 80% of its employees are university students. But that's not the point. The point is that we came home late every night, usually around 4 or 5 in the morning. During the week when we worked, our fourth roommate told us she never felt safe alone in that big of a house, so she practically lived with her boyfriend. This means that between the hours of 12 and 5, no one was in our apartment during the week, or so I thought. A few weeks into living at the new house, things in our apartment started to vanish. Not normal things though, like socks or clothes or food. Our cleaning supplies would go missing, our bowls, our spoons, and even entire brand new bags of unopened toilet paper rolls would simply disappear. We didn't know what to make of it. We laughed about it at first, but after the third week or so, it turned into more of a nervous laughter, and I would say our friends found us to be a little more paranoid and uneasy when they came to visit us on the weekends. Things just didn't feel right in our home. I can't explain it. The best I can put the feeling into words is that when you're asleep, you have the unconscious feeling, even in your dreams, that someone is walking around in your home, someone that you didn't invite. So one weekend we invited a decent amount of people to our house for a party. By midnight, everyone was properly drunk, and I, in my infinite wisdom, decided it would be a fantastic idea to play hide and seek. Everyone happily obliged, and one of our buddies volunteered to be the seeker. I rushed around the bedrooms and hallways, turning off every light I could find, and then repeated the motions on our first floor. I had turned every light off in our home when I turned and realized there was still a light shining in the back staircase, the one that led to our basement. By this point I was creeped out, so I yelled for Q to grab his gun and come check the staircase with me. In hindsight, having a drunken college kid wield a pistol in a house full of people where ghosts may be likely is an incredibly stupid idea, but we didn't care. The liquor courage gave me the balls to act tough, and I was gonna settle this shit once and for all with Q. I was tired of living afraid in my own house, so we pattered down the dusty staircase, making sure to hit every single spider web in our way, and noticed the light is indeed coming from the basement, but a screen door was blocking us from entering. It looked like our landlord had used a Colt gun to seal off the doorway, so with only the slightest bit of force, we were able to open the shanty screen. At this point, I let Q take the lead because, you know, he had a gun. The rest of our party had gone silent and made a single file line behind the two of us. Q stealthily leads us down maybe 7 or 8 flights of steps, and then the basement opens up into a huge space. Off to the left, a brightly shining lamp, absent of its lampshade, sat on a busted end table next to a discolored mattress covered with a handful of disgusting comforters. In complete awe of what we had stumbled upon, Q wasn't paying attention and tripped over a box, spilling its contents. Hundreds of broken and used needles gushed out onto the basement floor. We all looked at each other stunned. Someone was living down here, underneath us, maybe more than one person. Then we started to notice our cleaning supplies, our dishes, our toilet paper. We spread out around the basement for the next half hour or so, investigating every little thing we could. An old wooden frame TV with bent antennas made its home on a broken TV stand. A photo album with faces of strangers smiling. A photo book of someone's memories lying in absolute filth in the basement of a mansion. Then I found something that made me pack everyone up, leave the house and call the police. Lying underneath the end table was a relatively new and clean looking manila folder. Curious, I opened it and reviewed the fresh sheets of paper inside. They were release papers from prison. A man's mugshot decorated the top, with the list of charges below: assault, drug trafficking, domestic violence. He was released 2 months prior. Long story short, the police came, found a door in the basement that led to our back lot, which was never used and never locked, and determined that was his point of entrance. We think that while we were out of the house, he came in through the screen door and gathered supplies from our bedrooms and kitchen. I'm at work right now, but I'll post some pictures of the inside of the house when I get home. It is now abandoned. I went back to gather a few bits and pieces of things I had left in my room a week after we told the landlord that we were moving out. But when I arrived to the house when I got off work, I could see a light on in my bedroom and our front door was wide open. I decided to leave my things. Just got back home from work and was able to find a few pictures of the house. This was years ago. This picture of the door was the door that led to this third-story vacant apartment.